This is roughly my 6th attempt to live broadcast today. So many technical issues, but hopefully it is now working with audio. If any of you are tuning in to the live broadcasts, thank you, I really do appreciate it. If you can hear me this time around, I would really appreciate you letting me know. Thank you to Peter. Thank you, kind sir, for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. So many technical issues. I was planning on just kicking off this live broadcast talking about my potential switch to Android. But first of all, I want to talk to you about another issue, which was an issue with this live broadcast and primarily the iPad Pro, which I'm using to broadcast from, and what a mess it made of getting this broadcast up and running. Admittedly, you could blame some of the issues on possibly the YouTube app not being up to date with iOS 11, but I'm going to primarily blame it on the iPad Pro working so poorly with iOS 11. I started the broadcast, I did a test broadcast first, and the audio was working absolutely fine. Second time around, after you kindly informed me that there was no audio on the broadcast, I switched everything off, started everything again, and the iPad went into this loop of taking thumbnail photos. So I quit all of the applications, started again, and the iPad then went into a loop of saying, do you want to end this broadcast? So it was picking up on the previous broadcast. And then the fourth issue, which was very strange, was that I copied, in fact, let me just tweet this out now. I copied that I'm live now on YouTube. So I'm going to tweet this. And I copied the URL to tweet out this live broadcast onto my Twitter client on my MacBook Pro sitting just here. And the iPad pasted it into the title of the broadcast. What's that to do? It's called handoff or something? What on earth is going on with iOS 11? It is absolutely crazy. Anyway, let's have a quick look before we start talking about the subject of today's broadcast. Have a quick look and see who has tuned in. So we have got a big hello to Peter. Thank you for telling me the audio's working. We've got Fred, Sundeep, Geekanoid, Joseph K, Yui Klinkmuller. Hi Yui, you tuned in last time, I remember you. We've got Audi 12300, Wayne Gerald. We've also got Michael Dobbs, Geek Shraven. Hello to my good friend Paul. Thank you very much for tuning in. We've also got Kenneth Sim, Nick Curley, and just so many of you tuning in for this live broadcast. It really is encouraging. Now, a couple of things to cover off very quickly in the broadcast, just before going on to the main subject of the potential switch to Android, is a lot of you have been tweeting me, asking me why I'm not tweeting as regularly as I used to. And there is a good reason for that. I used to tweet out my geek discount or tech deals every single morning. In fact, I've done that for the past 3 years roughly without missing a single day. And the reason that that stopped is I moved over all of those tech deals onto a dedicated Twitter channel or Twitter stream, and that's at Geek Discounts. I'll put that in the chat for you. So if you do want to keep up with all of the tech deals that I post, if I can type, for all the tech deals, then please do follow at Geek Discounts. That is the new Twitter handle for all of the tech deals, and that's both USA and some other countries I tweet out as well, but that's every single day. I primarily do it in the morning UK time, and then they also get updated on the Geekanoids website as well. So that's the new Twitter handle to actually cover. And then another thing just to note is that a lot of people have been asking me what I use the funds for when I get revenue in from the videos, or when I get revenue in from super chats. Super chats are really good. If you do use them, I answer as many questions as I can. You know me by now. I try and answer all the questions that come in via normal chat. If you want to highlight one of your questions, you can use the super chat feature. That highlights it, put it straight to the top, gets my attention. And all of the funds that I get in from donations and sponsors and also revenue, I put back in to review product. Believe it or not, I don't get sent absolutely everything that I feature on the channel. A lot of the products I do, I get loan products that get returned, I get cases sent in which are often not returned, and other bits in between that. But when it comes to things like smartphones, I mean, for example, the iPhone 8 Plus that I covered on the channel, that was something that I had to use funds for, and any of the funds that come in via Super Chat or indeed ad revenue, more often than not get put back in to the Geekanoids channel so that I can test these devices and bring you my opinion. And from the feedback I get, you seem to like my opinion. I tell it how it is. I tend not to just sort of spout off a list of specifications. I give you some real user perspective on the technology that I use, especially when it comes to smartphones and laptops. I've been sharing a lot lately about the bad experience I've been having with Apple. For those of you who aren't quite up to date with the bad experience I had on my MacBook Pro with Apple, wow, that was a bad time. I mean, their quality control has been taking a dive of recent, and it's that bad experience that I had when trying to get a faulty MacBook Pro sorted out that really has led me to think twice as to whether I really need to be completely in their ecosystem. I'm not going to be jumping ship on my MacBook Pro, or indeed the Mac Pro that's running the screen here, or indeed the other Mac behind me, purely because I really do use Final Cut Pro 10. And I find it really hard to switch to Adobe Premiere. I've tried using Windows PC for video editing, just didn't get on well with it. But something I can potentially change is the really bad experience that I'm getting with primarily iOS 11. It wasn't fantastic in iOS 10. In iOS 10, the main sort of issues that I had were sort of rotation issues, where I'd be watching something. Let's just pull up a video. I haven't got sound at the moment. Let's put the sound right down. And the main issues I had before was just sort of rotation bugs, where I'd rotate round and then it would just get caught completely in the wrong space, and I'd have a little tiny window with a video up here that I couldn't interact with. With iOS 11, it's been such a bad experience. I've been having glitches with deleting emails. On some occasions I'd be able to select multiple emails in the message viewer and then delete them, and then I'd go back in or go back over to another computer which should have been updated with those changes, and the messages were still there. And then on other occasions I'd go into the message viewer, select a few messages, scroll up, select a few more, totally locked out. Couldn't even delete the messages. And then the experience I had on the iPad, another good example, this iPad Pro sitting here, which cost me almost £800. iOS 11 on it is terrible, absolutely terrible. It can't decide what it's doing sometimes. It locks up, it crashes, it resprings the main sort of home screen, which has happened on this about 4 times today. Admittedly, the only sort of improvement I've noticed since updating to the very latest version, they've done some incremental updates, is that I have noticed the battery seems to have stabilised. Now, Apple are, credit to Apple, their customer service isn't fantastic all the time, but Apple are going to be swapping this out. So they're swapping, this is my iPhone 7 Plus, and they're going to be swapping this just for a new one, purely because I'm having so many issues with it, and they think it could be a hardware issue in combination with iOS 11. I don't think it is, because I've used this for a year now, and the issues have only got really bad since iOS 11 was updated onto this phone. So anyway, before I talk about the potential switch to Android, what devices I'm looking at, why I'm looking at changing, let's take a look, see if there are any questions. And again, if you want to use the Super Chat feature, that will highlight your question to me. Hello to Paul Craddock. Snapchat caused me loads of problems with iOS 11 since I removed it. My iPhone is working fast again. This is an iPhone 6 Plus. So that could indicate that, especially with your experience of iOS 11, that it was a third-party app causing the problem, which is interesting to learn. Very, very interesting indeed, that deleting or uninstalling Snapchat sped your device up again. Front Page Tech, hey, I'm catching this live. Hello to you, John. You should be in bed. What time is it It is probably, oh no, it is probably about mid-morning where you are. Hello, good morning to you, John. Really nice of you to tune in. I hope you're feeling better, my friend. Mark Bloxham says, hi Dave, I have the new Geekanoids channel and website review going up soon. Wow, you're really positive and confident, and I enjoy each and every video you produce. Well done, all the best, Mark. That is amazing to learn. So it sounds like you're reviewing my channel. Be kind, and be sure to tweet me a link when that review goes up. Front Page Tech is trying to make me blush. Dave is the best tech reviewer there is. I put my name behind that 100%. That's very kind of you, John. Really do appreciate that. Vivid Mac 101, iOS 11 is a buggy nightmare. I could not agree more. Going back many years, I can remember Apple being really on the ball. They would release a new product and it didn't feel as though you were beta testing it for them. It was a finished, well-rounded, well-focused product. Admittedly, this was pre-iPhone days, and using their desktop still had some issues when you were dealing with Extensions Manager. Remember that? Does anyone remember Extensions Manager on the Mac desktop? But they were really focused on delivering a fantastic customer experience, and that has slipped dramatically over the years. And in fact, I'm showing you this purely because it's the only iPhone I've got here at the moment, but the slip started happening when they started transitioning away from what I would say professional or prosumer devices to consumer devices. So when they became Apple Inc. and dropped the computer or computers off of their name. And as soon as that happened and they had this mass market appeal, not necessarily the hardware quality went down, but certainly the quality control of the software went down. And the software is what enables us to have a fantastic experience. And that is a big disappointment. Thankfully, and I'm pointing again to this screen here, but also to my MacBook Pro, thankfully the Mac operating system on the desktops and laptops, macOS High Sierra, as it's called now, goodness knows why they called it that, but anyway, macOS High Sierra is actually a very good operating system. It's very stable, as it has been for me over the past 10, 15, 20 years. I haven't really had any major problems with it, but certainly on the iPad and their mobile devices, they seem to be trying to give so many features, almost a catch-up game with the Android platform and other manufacturers. They're trying to pack so much in, and you can see this layering effect happen where it's not a stable operating system anymore. So it is a big shame. Frankie says maybe try to reset the devices, maybe they're bugged after the update. Believe me, Frankie, I have tried restores on this iPhone. I have tried a restore and set it up as a brand new iPhone and used it almost a whole day without installing or introducing any new applications on it. Still the same issues. Still, so sort of what would be considered a fresh iPhone, still very poor to use, and so much so that I'm not even inclined to pick this up now. I'm doing a lot of my work on my desktop and laptop, and that's a shame. That's a shame, because so often do applications crash now. It's just a very poor experience. Kenneth Sim probably could consider switching to a Pixel 2. I'll come on to that a little bit later on. I will talk about the new Pixel devices. Hyman Ross, I have to use an iPhone for work. It is so slow, I really don't get on with it. I'm really sorry to hear that. It's a lot of people's experience at the moment. Audi 123000, I'm still running iOS 10 on my iPad Air 2. That is probably a wise move. On my iPad Pro here, when I was running iOS 10, it was a lot more stable. None of these crashes. Still the odd sort of thing that I didn't like or didn't sort of really relish experiencing, but for the most part it was a stable experience. So I hear you there. Wise move. Sundeep Prakash, your frustrations with iOS 11 are truly justified. Have you had any other issues with your iPad Pro? Yes, I've had one other issue apart from the app crashes, which is issue enough in itself, and that's with it getting a little bit too warm for my liking. It never used to, but since upgrading to iOS 11 it seems to get a lot warmer. This is the trouble with the chat, it scrolls up so quickly sometimes. I had someone there that I saw, it was Danny Johnson, just wanted to say hi Dave, long time fan. Hello to you Danny, thank you very much for tuning in. Darren Dunn, I find the widgets are slow in iOS 11, they are crazy slow, stutter, it's just unacceptable. Apple really need to drill back down and focus and optimize rather than trying to cram it full with new emojis. I'd live without emojis, I really would live without emojis if we had an iOS 11 that actually performed smoothly without all these jitters and everything. It would be a real good setup. I mean, they've done this with macOS. Instead of introducing hundreds of new features every time, they've done updates where they've really focused on optimizing performance. Absolutely crazy. Sundeep says, I agree, Final Cut Pro and your ecosystem was all set up for video editing. Would you ever change down the road? It would be hard. It would be hard for me to switch away from Final Cut Pro 10, but never say never. Bree Fetz says, Dave, seriously, who is in charge of software? They need to get back to Apple roots. Can we get back to smoothness of iOS 6, Steve Jobs era? I think it's in a mess. I think Tim Cook is a good CEO. I think he's doing a overall good job. But they need to do some sort of restructuring where they maybe have heads of teams that are directly linked to Tim Cook, and he should prioritise, for example, software or UI experience on iOS 11. He can't be blind or deaf to the fact that so many people are complaining about it, and I just think that would be a really good shift for Apple to do, to regain that focus. Hyman Ross says, still happy with my S7 Edge. That is really good to hear. Morgan Wright says, I've lost it again. It's just all scrolled up. Morgan Wright, my 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro with Touch Bar is perfectly fine after upgrading to High Sierra. If anything, has made my laptop even better. I haven't had any issues. I have still not upgraded to High Sierra, purely because I use these for production machines. I will do soon. Very soon. I haven't heard many complaints about it. I also saw another good question here. Mark Probert. Hello Mark. I hope you are enjoying our little transaction we did. Say no more. I hope you're enjoying it. Mark asks, good afternoon Dave. Will you be getting the iPhone 10 or iPhone X as people are calling it? Yes, I will be getting an iPhone 10 in. I'm hoping to obviously be able to order quickly enough because they're meant to be limitations to the amount that's going to be available, and if you don't get something from the first batch you're looking at next year. So I'm going to be refreshing the app on my iPhone to get one in. I won't be keeping it though, I don't think. I really don't like the design, but I will definitely be getting one in, and I will be using it for a week or two. And then if I don't keep it, I'll be selling it. I don't believe in returning it. I don't think that's the good thing to do with Apple. I will be just selling it on. I've got somebody who's interested in one and said, well, if you want to buy it first, use it for a week or two and then sell it to me for a little bit of a discount, which I'm more than prepared to do. Then if I can fund that difference via ad revenue or super chat donations, then I will do that and then let this person have it a little bit cheaper. And I think that's a good way to at least experience it for a couple of weeks and then share my opinion with you, because I might be wrong. I've said all along, from a distance I don't like the design. From a distance I don't like what they're going to be doing with the UI when it goes round that notch, and I think they've missed the ball with this one. So, but I do want to experience it. I want to be able to share that experience with you. If I do miss any of your questions, do drop them in the comments again. We've got a question here from John at Front Page Tech. We have got one from John. Here we go. It keeps scrolling past me. How far would you allow iOS to be stripped down in exchange for a better experience? How much would you be willing to give up feature-wise? That's a really good question. and something I could talk about for ages, but I want to get back to will I be switching and what device I'm looking. But what I would say to you, John, and to all of you, is that if you've experienced iOS for the last 3-4 years, for example, you will have seen it becoming bloated. We've got all of these stickers, animated GIFs in the message app, emojis, okay, we can live with some emojis. We've got this control center, which is so badly implemented. Do we really need that? Do we really need that jerky mess of a control center? I would love to go back to a really simple and fluid iOS that gave us all of the mainstream apps that we need, like the camera app, obviously, messages, a browser, FaceTime I do like, iMessage obviously I like, and really, how can I say this? I think that if they were more stringent on what went into the App Store as well, that it didn't put a big load on the processor in the iPhone, or there was a way within the settings to see how certain apps were affecting the performance of the phone, how much processor time they were using, then you could decide whether you wanted to keep that app on your phone or whether you just wanted to delete it, including the stock apps, because maybe a third-party app is better optimized to do something than one of Apple's own apps. So I would strip it right back. I wouldn't mind if it was stripped right back and they started again and really gave us a smooth system to use. So I would lose pretty much all of it. I really would, as long as it took. My priorities are email, browsing, messaging, phone calls, and then a good camera experience and being able to do something like this. If I could do that, I'd be sold. I would be absolutely sold on it. So anyway, there are other questions here. If you want them answered, do feel free to post them again. I want to talk to you about the main, we're already 22 minutes in, the main subject matter of this video is, will I be switching to Android? I have obviously tested a lot of Android phones on the Geekanoids channel. The reason I don't switch to them is normally they're loaners, so I get them for like 2 weeks, maybe. I think I said the wrong thing there because somebody's saying Android. Oh, you're referring to your question. That's from him. Good username. So back to will I be switching to Android? The phones that I get in are on 2 weeks loan, normally, and then they get sent back. What incentive have I had until very, very recently with the nightmare of iOS 11 to actually spend my own money on a new daily driver? I don't mind spending money on a new Android phone to bring you the video and then selling that Android phone and sort of churning the devices over so that I can bring you my experience with these. But that's hard to do. It's hard to do continually and hard to keep on top of the money aspect of things as well. I want to create videos. I don't want to look at the numbers all the time. Am I dropping more than 10 to 15% off the cost of a smartphone when I sell it on? So it's really hard for me to invest my money into something, but at the moment I'm feeling backed into a corner because my experience is becoming so bad with the iPhone, because it's becoming a device I want to put down and don't want to pick up. So I'm looking primarily at the new Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL. They're the two smartphones I've got on order from Google, and my thought pattern is that I will try the Pixel 2 because that's coming in first, and if I love it then I'll wait for the 2XL to come in so I can compare them side by side, and then I will decide which one to keep. If I decide to keep the larger one, I'll sell the Pixel 2 to my good friend. If I decide to keep the smaller one, which is a possibility, it is a possibility, then I'll sell the Pixel 2 XL, and those funds will go back into getting new smartphones in to share with you. I was initially looking at getting in the LG V30, and the reason I decided possibly not to, I might still be able to get one in on loan. LG have got me on their list. I don't know how long the list is, but I was looking at the LG V30, and a lot of people are saying that yes, the wide angle camera is amazing, the experience is pretty good, but the actual photo quality is not that great, and that's important to me. And the second reason that I possibly will skip the LG V30 unless I get a loaner is that I couldn't find anyone, and I always put feelers out first within my sort of circle of friends and colleagues. I couldn't find anyone that was interested in possibly buying it. Whereas with the Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL, I found somebody straight away that said, yep, if you want to use it for a week or two, then you know, I will have it off you. So I've got more or less a guaranteed return on that with a small investment into bringing the content to the Geekanoids channel. Now, with regards to switching completely, when I get phones in on loan, obviously I still use my iPhone as my daily driver. This time around, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually get rid of this on the day that the Pixel 2 comes in, so that I have to choose between the Pixel 2 or the Pixel 2 XL for use as my daily driver, and then and only then can I give that a fair chance. So, you know, I think that is definitely the way to go. So I'm just checking the chats again, just checking I haven't missed any super chats, which I haven't, which is good, or not good, whichever way you want to look at it. But anyway, back to the question at hand is that I'm only ever going to consider switching if I'm using something every single day and I'm not tempted to go back to this. Now, that's not to say that I won't go back to it, but without this in my hands or in my pocket, I won't be tempted to. And if I find it an absolute nightmare after 3 to 6 months, I'm going to give it at least 3 months. If I find it an absolute nightmare, then I might get an iPhone 8 Plus if iOS 11 has been stabilized and updated to something that's usable. But I think I'll be fine because I've been slowly transitioning away from using the iMessage or Apple Messages app and FaceTime and moving across to other services. And I've been slowly transitioning away from using iCloud as well. I use Google Photos on this anyway, so all of my photos are uploaded to Google anyway, so it's irrelevant which platform I'm using for my mobile device. And that's one of the big selling points, actually. Chris Perillo, who's been doing a lot more discussion on this sort of thing lately, big shout out to you, Chris, has sort of highlighted the fact that his wife Diana runs out of room all the time on her smartphone, and a big use case scenario for her and for a lot of people is not having to think about what photos or what videos you're going to have to delete from your smartphone, and knowing that until 2020, if you buy a Google Pixel 2 or Pixel 2 XL, you've got unlimited full quality uploads and backups, of course, of all of your photos and videos that you take. And that's a big thing. That's what somebody does a lot with their smartphone. This is a lot of people's primary camera. I'm finding myself going out to meetings and full day outings not really needing to take a camera. Of course, I still do take a camera on occasion when I'm recording video for someone else or a main video on the channel, but I could perfectly easily get away with the quality of a smartphone camera now. They all record in 4K. They all take great photos. So why not use the camera you've got and don't lug around an extra camera with you? That's not for everyone. That's not to say that everyone is going to be like that, but certainly for a lot of my use case scenarios, I don't need to take a camera with me. So it is going to be a switch. It may be a temporary switch. I may look for another device, but I'm really sold on the fact that it will either be a Pixel 2 or Pixel 2 XL that will become my daily driver at least through until January, February next year. And I think it'd be a great experience. From what I've seen and heard so far in the videos, the presentations, and the general discussion that's surrounding these two smartphones, I think it's going to be a fantastic experience. And I had first-hand experience. I recently went down to an event in London. I went to YouTube Space in London, and I met Desi down there, and she was actually using a Pixel smartphone, the first generation, and the photos, absolutely amazing. Brilliant quality photos, partly down to the optics, but also to do with how Google have implemented the software within their smartphones. So it definitely is food for thought. Definitely is food for thought. Anyway, let's have a look back through the chat. I can see the chat in the corner of my eye here, flickering and scrolling up. Let's see what other questions we've got. Him asks, are you afraid of privacy in Android, tracking by Google, etc.? A tiny bit. I'd be lying if I didn't say a tiny bit. Michael Coleman, is the LG V30 still the one you're looking at, Dave? No, it's the Pixel 2 or Pixel 2 XL. Front page check, John has, I have a contact at LG if you want to get it in. I want to get it in, John. Shoot me a private message on Twitter or an email. That would be really helpful. I am on the list with LG UK, but I've been on the list for how long with no contact, and I'll always do a fair review. I've done videos for LG products before. I use LG products. Look at this lovely screen from LG. Superb screen. This is the LG 38 UC99, I think it is. Superb quality. They do screen quality so well. So I would love to still try an LG V30. David James says, sorry, but if you go Android, you will come back to iOS. That's what's happened to me when I tried the Samsung S4 a few years ago. Android was terrible. Well, never say never, David. Things have moved on a great deal in the past few years. They've really refined the operating system. It's quite exciting to see what they've been doing over the past years. Morgan Wright 123, I'm thinking of switching to iOS from Android after 4 years. Do you think this is a good idea? People do like change. I had a similar question in one of my previous live broadcasts. People like to try something new. You get bored of the operating system you're on. And just before I continue answering this question, I must apologise. The actual video quality with the lighting I've got in the editing room is really bad. I really need to get that sorted out, because I'm thinking I'm going to probably do a lot of the live broadcasts from the editing room just because it's a little bit easier for me. I've also got the soundproofing up here, which makes the audio a lot nicer as well. But back to your question, it's a very personal choice. Very personal choice. I certainly wouldn't recommend switching to iOS 11 in its current state. If you tried your device on iOS 10, then possibly worth doing. Any more questions? Oh, we've got here Momentous Increvious. People, please, I'm new in YouTube and I am from Brazil. Sign up for my channel, please. There you go. There's a shout out. Check out the channel. It's very hard to get noticed on YouTube nowadays. So any more questions coming in? I was planning on streaming for about 30 minutes and we've gone just past the 30 minutes mark now. And the reason I'm only probably broadcasting for 30 minutes is I'm planning another broadcast later on where I will be talking about whether you should leave a particular company, where you should keep your brand loyalty. Should you stay with Apple or Windows or Samsung or company X, and at what stage should you consider looking at something else? And this question seems to be reflected in some of the comments today, with people looking at switching to Android or from Android to iOS. So it's on people's minds a lot, and it all comes down to user experience, and that's the subject of the live broadcast later on today. We've also got Paul Brown. Hi Dave, just tuned in. Are you getting the Pixel 2 XL? I'm getting both the Pixel 2 and the XL version. Retro Manification. Hi Dave, I've just started viewing. What's the score? Are you switching to Android? You tuned in late. I'm just about to finish the live broadcast. I'm going to be switching to Android for at least 3 to 6 months to give it a really good try. I've come to the end of my tether with iOS 11. Dan MUFC 1999. Hi Dave, great to see you streaming. Hope you like my comment on your beard. Yes, I did. It was on a beard video. As you rightly say, the beard has gone. Is Dropbox subscription service worth investing in to upload pictures and videos to the cloud? I don't like Dropbox at all. I've got Dropbox, it's full. It keeps reminding me it's full. It keeps asking me to upgrade. I would really look at a more integrated experience, and that's one of the big selling points with the new Pixel phones, because you get that free unlimited uploads of your photos and videos until 2020. Dropbox is good for some people. Don't like the way they're going at the moment though. Morgan Wright asks, what do you think of Microsoft discontinuing Windows 10 Mobile? I personally think it's lost its relevance. I think you're very right, and I think Microsoft have been off of my radar for a long time, and some of the hardware again was very nice hardware with the Microsoft Lumia range of smartphones. The software, here we go, back to software again, the software experience and the lack of apps was what made it grow stale to me. I actually liked the tiled user interface. It was a very fluid design. It had some promise, but it needed the support of developers, and if they weren't getting the support of third-party developers, they needed to give it the support themselves to make it thrive, and they didn't. Y asks, have you tried iOS 11.1 public beta? No, I haven't tried that yet. It's something that I may well try, although again, from watching Chris's videos and other comments on social media, a lot of people are finding that hasn't sorted out a lot of the problems. Fernando Pina asks, is iOS doomed in its current state? It's not doing itself any favours. That's all I'll say there. Brett's TV, I've always used iOS, not happy with their software rollouts. It's a shame, don't you think? It is a big shame, Brett. I do agree. They really need to rein things back in and start refining rather than adding to the problem. I think that's the main issue, is they're trying to add too much. Danny Johnson, and I'll take this as the last question actually. Danny Johnson asks, do you think the iPhone 10 will mitigate the iOS 11 issues? No, I don't, because the hardware inside, apart from the additional sensors, is primarily the same as the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, and the iPhone 8 Plus ran like a dog. That's probably a bad example, but ran so bad. I should say ran like I can't think of how bad to describe it, but it just ran terribly. No animals were harmed in the making of this broadcast, but it just ran so poorly on the iPhone 8 Plus, and I couldn't recommend it to anyone. And the iPhone 8 Plus, as I said, the internals of that are pretty much the same as what's in the iPhone 10, albeit the iPhone 10 has got even more to handle, because it's got to handle this new face sensor thing that's going to put lasers all over your face to recognise who you are. So, and it's also got to accommodate the notch, and it's also got to accommodate a different resolution screen. It's so I can't see it running any better on the iPhone 10, unless they roll out the iPhone 10 with a 0.1 or 0.2 update that sorts out all the problems, and it's still going to be an operating system that's crammed full of features that not necessarily everyone needs. So only time will tell, but I don't see it happening. I don't see it being a fantastic user experience, which is why I'm just getting one in to share that experience with you, rather than getting one in to become my daily driver. So well, anyway, that's it for this broadcast. Thank you very much to everyone who tuned in. I really do appreciate it, and I'll try and broadcast again later this evening. And as I say, the subject matter for this evening will be very interesting indeed, because it's really talking about brand loyalty and at what stage you should consider maybe switching from one company to another, not just related to Apple, but related to our user experience of all the technology that we have at our disposal nowadays. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.